When did the church abandon America? I remember growing up in church, whose sanctuary platform was proudly flanked by a gleaming Christian flag on one end and the bold, noble stars and stripes on the other. Now, I see only stage lighting, fake plants, electric guitars, and smoke machines. I remember a time when pastors from their pulpits praised the sacrifice of the young men that gave their life in service of our country.
Yeah.
To protect our freedom to gather and worship.
Yep.
Now, I see pastors kneeling to government mandates and placating public health officials.
Yeah.
Now I see pastors not choosing a side, not speaking out against an evil administration's overreach and attempt to control and censor the church. They even admonish these pastors, their congregations, to not pick a side. Sure, they want unity. I get that. But it's easier to keep silent as well. You see, there is no example. This is the pastor's dilemma. You see, there is no example of how Christians should form and administer a government in the New Testament.
Yeah.
The writers of the New Testament were under persecution of an evil empire. So only the Old Testament provides the guidance for how the godly should govern. But American pastors dare not explore that publicly. The church is a bipolar coward led by double-minded preachers. When good presidents are elected and patriotism surges among the congregants, America, the preachers tell us, is God's greatest gift to humanity, after his own Son, Spirit, and Word. We sing, "God Bless America" and "My Country, 'Tis of Thee" in the pews. But when an ungodly man seats the White House, from day one, all of a sudden, America is ancient Rome. And the sacrifice of one's own life for their country is praised as either virtuous or considered pointless, depending on which administration camps in the Oval Office. But America is not Rome, and I'm sick of hearing feckless cowards from the pulpit preach a gospel of cowardice, of hiding, of Christian victimhood during hard times. God needs American liberties to persevere. The church truly is under attack and heavily persecuted in China, Iran, Afghanistan, among other despotic and communist governments. And those churches need their American brothers and sisters to continue their support, their funding, Bibles, aid, and even missionaries to be sent. But we can't do that if we give up our Constitution and what it protects. Churches and their flaccid leadership are soft, scared, and fear spurring their men into patriotic action. They abdicate their responsibility to remind men that they were born Americans by God's design and providence. They were born for such a time as this. There is a great metaphor that has captured the attention of the masculine mind over the past decade. That of the sheep, the wolves, and the sheepdog. We're all familiar with that. And while a man knows that the honor lies in becoming the sheepdog, I believe that men deserve to flesh out the rest of the picture. Flocks don't wander around with only the sheepdog to protect them. That is not what Scripture tells us. There are no sheepdogs in Scripture. Scripture tells us that there's a shepherd. And his shepherding was not reserved for the Son of God alone, but for every husband, father, pastor, captain, coach, mayor, colonel, so forth. The shepherd, according to Israel's greatest king, had a rod and a staff, and they comforted him. The staff was to hook and guide and save the sheep. The rod was to discipline and, among other things, fight off the wolves.
Yeah.
So while I like the idea of sheepdogs, I don't believe we need sheepdogs in our country as much as we need shepherds,
Yeah.
armed with both rod and sling, as King David was.
Yeah.
I'm tired of hearing pulpit mongers and evangelical talking heads whining about how we have a crisis of masculine leadership in our homes and society and in the church. I will tell you that as long as you refuse to encourage the shepherds to also take up their rods and slings, you can expect a low turnout when men are required to advance your church's agenda.
Mm-hmm.
So stop with the analogies if you're not going to see them through. Stop neutering the metaphors that spur men to lead, provide, and protect.
Yeah.
If we as men, husbands, fathers, pastors, etc., are supposed to feed and protect our charges, why does the church say we must feed them both spiritually and physically, while we can only protect them spiritually and not physically?
Yeah.
Pastors, please hear me. I'm not a warmonger. I hate violence, as God hates violence. But violence may come whether we love it or hate it, and probably will very soon. And men will have to decide to hide behind their wives, children, and your gospel of cowardice.
Yeah.
Or you can call them to be men and cast their surety of life on the altar of manly sacrifice,
Mm-hmm.
take up arms and defend their families, neighbors, churches, and country.
Yeah.
And to carry out God's intentions for American benevolence and protection.